Welcome to The Deep Dive, your shortcut to being genuinely well-informed. Today, we're strapping in for, well, kind of an unexpected ride. We're going to pull back the curtain on an industry you might not immediately think of in terms of, billions of dollars. But trust me, it's there, rolling along quite nicely. We're diving headfirst into the global skateboard market. Our mission for this deep dive: go beyond just the big numbers. We've got this fantastic source, Global Skateboard Market, Graith and Regional Outlook from Cognitive Market Research. We're going to distill its key insights for you, reveal how big this market actually is, sure, but also where it's really popping off, where the growth is most dynamic, and crucially, what those trends might tell us about, broader global shifts. Culture, youth, economics. Think of this as your express pass to understanding a really vibrant, truly global thing that's, frankly, way more than just a sport.
It really is a fascinating subject because, yeah, for many people, skateboard is just, a board with wheels, simple. But the economic data paints this incredibly rich picture. Opportunities, cultural shifts, it's all in there and definitely worth exploring. What I find really insightful is how one specific industry, like skateboarding, can actually mirror these broader regional economic dynamics and cultural adoption patterns, too, right across the globe. It gives us this unique lens, almost, into how societies are changing.
Okay, let's do it. Let's unpack this, starting with the big global picture, because the scale alone is pretty eye-opening. Back in 2021, the global skateboard market was already pulling in nearly $3 billion in revenue.
$3 billion.
Yeah, that's a lot of skateboards. And it's not just a snapshot from the past, the projections. They show this market isn't hitting the brakes anytime soon. It's forecasted to grow steadily, almost $3.4 billion by 2025. And then it really takes off, projected to soar well over $4.5 billion by 2033. Yeah, and this reflects a pretty consistent compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, of about 3.76%. Now, that percentage might sound, modest, but for an established industry like this, it signals really robust, sustained momentum.
Exactly. And if you connect that to the bigger picture, like you said, it shows a sector with real staying power. This isn't some fleeting fad,
Yeah.
It's a consistently growing global market. It's managed to keep that momentum up over a decade, more than a decade, actually. And that kind of sustained growth. For something like a skateboard, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it, about the deeper factors. What do you think, just high level, is driving that kind of long-term consistency?
That's a great question. I think, part of it has to be how skateboarding itself is seen now. It's changed, right? It's gone from being this, counterculture niche thing to, it's an Olympic sport now.
Right. Huge shift.
Yeah. So it's become more accessible, maybe less intimidating, adopted by all sorts of different communities. So those global numbers are impressive, definitely. But here's where it gets really interesting, I think. The real story, the nuance. It lies in the regional differences. Not all wheels are turning at the same speed everywhere, or even in the same direction, really.
Precisely. And that's what we should dig into, analyzing each region. We need to look at who's contributing the most revenue, yes, but also, crucially, who's growing the fastest. That approach gives us that comprehensive view, where the market is now, sure, but maybe more importantly, where it seems to be heading and why. It's about understanding those underlying dynamics, not just, looking at raw figures.
Okay, let's roll into North America first then, because this region is, it's the undisputed heavyweight, the established leader in sales revenue. In 2021, North America alone clocked in sales over $1.1 billion.
Big slice.
It's huge. And that's projected to climb past $1.7 billion by 2033. That's a solid growth rate, too, about 3.5% annually. Now, drilling down into that, the U.S., maybe not surprisingly, really dominated. Nearly $1 billion just in the U.S. in 2021, forecasted to keep growing, over $1.3 billion by 2033. But here's the fascinating bit, comparing it to its neighbors, Canada, it's showing a noticeably higher growth rate, over 4.5%.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, projecting sales to almost double by 2033, and Mexico's right there too. Strong growth over 4.2%.
Okay, so what this tells us is North America, particularly the U.S., it's clearly a mature market, right? It's got this long history. The cultural embrace of skateboarding is deep.
Yeah.
So it's a massive revenue contributor, naturally, but its growth rate is, let's say, steadier.
Right.
But those higher growth rates in Canada and Mexico, they're significant. They suggest maybe different stages of market development, perhaps an emerging enthusiasm, or like you said, a more recent surge in popularity. It indicates that even within a really established region, there's still space for dynamic change. New consumer bases starting to really take off. Could be urbanization driving it, or maybe specific cultural things making skateboarding just more appealing to younger people in those countries right now.
That's a great point. Maturity means volume, but maybe newer markets bring that faster growth percentage. Okay, let's shift gears. Across the Atlantic to Europe. Europe presents this really fascinating mosaic of markets. The European market was worth over $230 million in 2021, projected to grow to almost $350 million by 2033. The overall CAGR there is around 3.6%, pretty close to the global average.
Okay.
But within Europe, you see some definite hotspots. The UK, for instance, strong growth rate, over 4.4%.
Higher than the average then.
Yeah, and Germany's not far behind, nearly 4% annually. Big market there, too. But then you have countries like Italy, under 3% growth, and Russia, even lower, around 2.5%. It really shows that varied pace across the continent. So how do we explain that? Such a wide range of growth in, a relatively compact area like Europe.
Well, that raises the important question, doesn't it? How do things like culture, economics, even infrastructure, how do those differences explain these varied rates? You could argue that countries like the UK and Germany, maybe they have more established urban youth cultures, possibly better public spaces for skating. That could drive stronger interest.
Makes sense.
Conversely, in places like, say, Russia, factors like climate, maybe different traditional ways people spend leisure time, or even just varying levels of urban development could slow things down. It really suggests a complex market, pockets of intense interest where the culture is really embedded, and other areas still sort of developing their scene and the infrastructure to support it.
Right.
It's not just about the money. It's how the sport fits into daily life, into local culture.
Absolutely. It's definitely a blend of factors. Okay, let's pivot now to a region that's really standing out as a momentum leader, the Asia Pacific. This region contributed significantly back in 2021, well over $430 million in sales.
Right.
And it's expected to reach a substantial $737 million by 2033. Get this, a leading CAGR of over 4.4%. Okay, so that's noticeably higher than the global average.
Exactly. This is where a lot of that global energy seems to be coming from. And within Asia Pacific, some incredible performances. India, showing strong growth, over 4.6% annually. Sales jumping from just over $100 million to nearly $200 million projected by 2033.
Wow, nearly doubling.
Yeah. And China, obviously a massive market, also showing significant growth, almost 4.7%, expected to hit over $150 million by 2033. And Southeast Asia as a whole is growing strong too, 4.5%. These are really impressive figures across the board there.
What this high growth momentum in Asia Pacific signifies? Well, it points to rapidly expanding consumer bases, right? And very likely a burgeoning youth culture that's really embracing skateboarding. This is where you can almost see the future growth most clearly emerging. It indicates this cultural phenomenon taking root and just expanding rapidly across really diverse economies and populations in the region. The sheer scale, the number of people there, even relatively modest adoption per person can translate into huge market growth.
Good point.
It's likely tied to things like increasing urbanization, maybe rising disposable incomes among younger generations, and just the global spread of youth trends through, social media, digital media. That aspirational side of skateboarding may be seen as cool, a form of self-expression. That's clearly resonating there.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, from one high growth area to another that might surprise some people. Let's move to the Middle East. This is another region showing incredibly dynamic growth. Sales over $350 million in 2021, projected to reach nearly $600 million by 2033. And listen to this. It boasts the highest regional CGR of all regions, just over 4.45%.
Really? Higher than Asia Pacific overall?
It's slightly higher, yeah. It's remarkable for a region that maybe isn't the first place you think of for skate culture.
Right.
Breaking it down, Saudi Arabia is leading that charge. Growth rate over 4.8%. Expected to reach well over $180 million by 2033.
Okay.
But the real standout, the UAE. Highest CAGR in the entire region, an astounding 5.1%.
5%, wow.
Its sales are projected to nearly double between 2021 and 2033. What's truly fascinating here is the Middle East's contribution to that global growth momentum. It's significant. This region, maybe often perceived differently regarding youth activities, is clearly seeing a rapid evolution in what people do for leisure.
Yeah.
This strong growth points to rapidly evolving markets, a younger demographic adopting activities like skateboarding at a remarkable pace. It kind of challenges some preconceived notions, doesn't it? Highlights how global trends can land locally and be embraced in maybe unexpected ways.
Absolutely.
We're probably seeing the impact of perhaps significant government investment, things like youth engagement programs, sports facilities,
Mm-hmm.
especially in countries like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, plus maybe a broader cultural openness to international trends.
Mm-hmm.
New urban developments often include modern recreational spaces, skate parks, which directly helps things like skateboarding.
That's a really profound point about how infrastructure and policy can actually speed up that cultural adoption. Okay, let's round out our global tour. We can group South America and Africa as regions with, let's say, developing potential, each showing its own unique patterns. Okay.
In South America, the market was valued just under $350 million in 2021. It's growing to over $500 million by 2033, with a CAGR around 3.3%. Brazil definitely dominates there, accounts for well over half the region's sales, growing at a respectable 3.5% annually.
Right, big player.
But then, if you look at the category rest of South America, it shows really modest growth, less than 1% CAGR. Very low.
Quite a contrast.
Big contrast.
Yeah.
Now, over in Africa, the market value in 2021 was nearly $380 million, increasing to over $585 million by 2033. The CAGR there is about 3.4%. Nigeria is leading the charge, growing at nearly 3.9% annually. South Africa shows a much lower growth rate, around 2.1%.
Okay, solid growth in those two.
Yeah, but similar to South America, the rest of Africa shows a much lower growth rate, around
Uh-huh.
2.1%.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture again, these patterns, this uneven development within the continents, it's very telling. It shows how some countries are quickly adopting, integrating skateboarding into their culture, their economy, while others are slower.
Right. Brazil, Nigeria, South Africa. They're larger economies, significant urban populations, maybe more developed youth cultures already. They seem to be driving most of the growth.
Mm.
The slower growth in rest of South America or rest of Africa, it hints at maybe different stages of urbanization, varying levels of youth engagement, or just distinct economic paths, perhaps less dedicated leisure infrastructure too.
Yeah.
It's not one single story, is it? It's a mosaic of different speeds, different factors influencing growth, even within one continent.
So bringing it all together then, what we've really seen today is that the global skateboard industry is definitively on a steady upward path. Everywhere, really. It's clearly not just some niche market anymore. It's a significant growing force in the global economy. Shows remarkable resilience, adaptability too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to summarize our sort of two key insights, North America, still the biggest revenue contributor by far, that mature, high-volume market. But the real energy, the true growth momentum, that's coming from Asia-Pacific and the Middle East. They're closing the gap quickly and really defining where the future of this market culturally and economically seems to be heading.
Exactly. And these numbers, they aren't just about skateboards as, physical products. They're this fascinating snapshot. Cultural adoption, economic vitality, right across the globe. The sustained, even accelerating global appeal of something once considered pretty niche. It now represents a really significant growing market. It reflects these broader trends, youth culture, urban development, rising incomes in really diverse parts of the world. It shows just how interconnected our global cultures are becoming and how quickly lifestyle trends can spread and really take hold.
That's a fantastic way to frame it. So what does this all mean for you listening? As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought to ponder. How might this continued growth, specifically of activities like skateboarding, influence things like urban planning, youth culture, even fashion trends, especially in those rapidly expanding markets like Asia Pacific and the Middle East? And maybe looking beyond skateboards, what might be the next unexpected cultural trend or activity that experiences this kind of remarkable global economic surge? What else could reveal even more about our changing world? Thank you for joining us on the Deep Dive.